Everyone. Hi and welcome. My name is Seth Laidlaw, Interim Director of Education here at Pittsburgh Public Theater. Thanks so much for joining us today for Playtime Plus, live 30-minute workshop based off of this month's play reading, which was Tammy Ryan's North of Forbes, an adaptation of Agatha Christie's mystery novel, one of her mystery novels that Amy Landis, teaching artist, will be talking about more today. I'm excited to introduce some on-screen participants who will be helping out and joining us for the workshop today. And they are also honorable mentions from the Shakespeare Monologue and Scene Contest. So we have from the Rustic Mechanical Shakespeare Apprentice Troupe, Low Key Hall, and Wes Cotter. You can join me on the screen. And today, leading the workshop, I already hinted at a professional actor who has performed with many of our Pittsburgh theaters and in several shows at Pittsburgh Public Theater, most recently as Tracy in Sweat. She's also been a teaching artist for the Shakespeare Contest and for other workshops at Pittsburgh Public Theater for over 15 years. Please welcome Amy Landis.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Seth, for that nice introduction. And hello, Loki and Wesley and everyone else out there watching today. As Seth was saying, today we're going to be doing a little workshop with props and a little bit on dying on stage, based on, yes, death on stage. Loosely based on North of Forbes, which is Tammy Ryan's adaptation of the mysterious incident at Styles, or the mysterious affair at Styles, Agatha Christie. And as you know, with Agatha Christie, it's often a murder mystery where everyone's a suspect and nobody knows who the killer is, and everyone starts to get paranoid and suspect each other. And there's often um, vials of poison and secret letters lying around and people hiding behind doorways and things like that. And so today we're going to play around with some props. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, you've all seen a play or maybe even been in a play where you've had to use props. And props are a very important part of what makes the play real and what makes it real and adds a lot of color and dimension to a production. Now, a few years ago, the Public Theater did a really interesting production of Our Town where there were no props. Everything was mimed, as it were, or air props. So people were folding laundry and doing ironing and making bacon in the pan or whatever, using nothing but their imagination and making it real. And so we are going to play around with that starting off. So the first thing that we're going to do is drinking cold and hot liquids. And this actually is a very, very old, very traditional acting exercise. And so we're going to start with having a pretend cup. So Loki and Wesley and everyone else out there, we'll just wait a second. Um, Find your imaginary cup and pick it up. It can be a cup and saucer. It can be, mine's a coffee mug. Loki has a coffee mug. And so, look, we've all got coffee mugs. All right, cheers. Here we go. So, a coffee mug, we all know the behavior of that. You hold it by a handle, and then you have to keep in in mind where the actual cup is. Let's all take a sip out of our pretend cup right now. Really take a real sip. Yes. Yeah, and there are behaviors that go along with drinking, and both Loki and Wesley, that looked great. You sighed, you had a response to the liquid. Now let's be a little more specific. Let's say that this liquid in our imaginary cup is extremely hot. So whatever your favorite hot liquid is, and all of you friends out there, you can have hot chocolate, maybe you're a coffee drinker, maybe it's hot tea, whatever. So let's put it back down on the table, release the handle. Now we're going to pick up that cup and take a sip of our hot liquid in our imaginary cup. Go. put it down. Fabulous. So now I'd like to hear from our two actors here in the Zoom room with us today, Loki and Wesley. So let's talk a little bit about that. I saw you doing lots of wonderful things. What are some of the behaviors, the acting behaviors we do that tell the story of hot liquid and drinking it?
So what I think with hot liquids, we're kind of like more whenever we take a drink, we kind of like hop back a little bit. You have more of a reaction, and maybe your mouth gets a little burnt, stuff like that. And you blow on it to cool it down, and
Yes, excellent. You blow on it. You blew on yours. Sometimes we do that. Even if it doesn't cool it down, we do it anyway,
Mhm.
right? It's just a
Yeah.
Yeah.
behavior we all do. We all know that behavior. So this is something you can use on stage to make it real. You took a sip very carefully. Loki, what about you? You were doing lots of stuff there as well.
Well, often when you're drinking a hot drink, normally you have a hand on the bottom of the cup, kind of, because if it spills, it's gonna hurt a lot more, so you're more careful.
More
And you go
careful.
slower and you take a sip. And then when it's too hot, because I specifically did when it's too hot, it kind of burns your tongue and you're like,
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I'm hearing from the actors doing it is you have to make lots of choices, and you both made really good choices and told us the story of drinking hot liquid. You had to hold it from the bottom. You had to drink it carefully. It hurt going down. There was breathing involved. There was all kinds of behavior involved in using that, and it was very believable, and you had no real prop. Now let's try it using a real cup. And if you friends out there want to grab a cup, or even if you don't have one, that's totally fine. But if you do have one, grab your cup. Now, let's feel the cup. Now, remember when we made up a cup? Now we're holding the real cup. Feel the texture of it, feel the weight of it. We had a weight with our imaginary cup. It had weight, right? Now, let's pretend that there's some liquid in it. Now, I want to say a word about this because on stage, when we use actual props and in north of Forbes, they're constantly drinking beer out of bottles and sipping tea. There's a lot of drinking of liquids going on in this production. Because it's Zoom, they had real liquids. They had real liquids that they were drinking. Sometimes on stage, even when we have actual props, it can be empty. So there's no real coffee. It was a pretend pour, and there was no real liquid. Or when we're drinking hot liquids on stage, they're not really giving us the props people aren't pouring hot tea in our cups. They're pouring, iced tea or water or some other liquid. So I still have to, as an actor, we still have to make it real, even when we're drinking a real liquid. We don't gesture around with our cup like there's nothing in it, right? That would look kind of weird on stage. So now let's say we have ice cold, delicious liquid in our cup. It can be any cold liquid you want. And let's take a sip of that, really using the cup. Here we go. Fantastic. So that was done with no liquid at all, but that looked totally real to me, you guys. So now let's break that down a little bit. What's our behavior when we drink cold liquid? What's the difference?
Our body becomes a little bit more relaxed and not as tense. I kind of have a connotation of relaxation, like kind of on a vacation, you have cold drinks while on the beach, so your body starts to kind of find its paradise, or like zen.
Yeah, I love that. That is, cold liquids are thought to be relaxing, or they relax you. And so, yeah. And what about Loki? What about you?
I specifically tried to mimic the behavior of, I don't know if this happens to everybody, but when you drink cold water and you can feel it like go through your system and you're just ah. So I tried my best to recreate that without actually having anything there.
You did a really good job, and there was a nice big audible sigh there, which is often how we feel. And with mine, I just wanted to chug a lug that thing all the way back because it was such a relief to have cold liquids. So one big takeaway from this is with hot liquids on stage, you have to be careful. You have to be a little bit careful. And with cold liquids, you can be a little bit less careful and you can chug it back. So there are very real specific behaviors that go along with that. Great work, you guys. I'm going to move along now to, actually, we're going to move along to the letter. We're going to move along to the letter. So for those of you out there, we brought along some props today from home. We have books, little books, and we have a letter. In this case, we have a secret letter that is found in a book. And so, and this is another theme that kind of runs through North of Forbes, the will that keeps getting changed and left around for people to find to see if they've been left in the will, and people discussing the will. And we're just going to do a little takeoff on that. And what we're going to do now, and you guys can do this at home too, is we're going to find the secret letter in our book. We're going to open the letter, read it, and make it some kind of discovery. There's some information in this letter that is going to cause a big reaction for you as well as the audience. And I think we'll do this one at a time. And what I'd love for you, Loki and Wesley, to do is don't be afraid to use the space. So we can get up from our chair and we can move out into the space around the, within the frame of our Zoom room. You can move out to the side. You can move over to the other side. You can come in close to the camera and maybe show the book. So why don't we have Wesley, you go first, and we'll all watch as Wesley does the opening the dangerous and mysterious letter. Whenever you're ready.
All right.
Excellent. Let's go right into Loki's and then we'll all talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So yes, very, very, very nice. I love the way you guys used the space. Talking about Wesley's first, he really used the space to look to the right and to the left to make sure nobody was coming. And whatever he found in that letter was pretty shocking and made him immediately put it back in the letter and hide it away. So this tells me a story that this is information that no one else should see, that nobody else should see, and that this character is kind of afraid that he has discovered this information. And what about Loki? What did you see, Wesley?
What
I
did
really
I see in Wesley's? Oh no!
Oh yeah, yeah. No, actually, yeah. Let's do that. So Loki, absolutely. Let's feedback from you about Wesley, and then we'll switch. Yeah.
I thought it was really, really cool how close you got to the camera, and like, I thought that was very, very neat play with the zoom mechanics.
Absolutely. And so that's another thing we talked about today a little bit earlier before everyone else came in, which is even though we're talking about stuff that we use on stage in an actual stage production, we know we're all living in the Zoom universe right now. And so we're all used to how do we play within this Zoom space? And proximity is definitely one of those things that can be very effective. I want to do one thing. So then Wesley, let's talk about Loki's.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I really liked the evil laugh. It added an element of mysteriousness and kind of it like whenever you saw it, you gave us like an evil smile. I thought that was really cool.
It was really cool.
What I
It
was going for.
made me laugh. Yeah, and it was because that's a totally different story about discovering the information. The information was somehow benefiting him in some way, was kind of the story that I got a little bit. You know, it was a little bit diabolical in a fun
Mhm.
way, which is always awesome. Um, while we're on the subject, and we can use the book for this, let's use the book. And so while we're on the subject of Zoom plays, this is something they do a lot in North of Forbes. And I don't know, have you guys had a chance to watch it?
I have not.
Is it, well, they do a lot of passing of the prop from one screen to the next. And this is something in the Zoom universe that I never get tired of watching or practicing myself. So um, I want you guys to practice the passing of the book from one screen to the next. So Wesley, why don't you go first, and left and right screen, it doesn't matter. The
All right.
book's going to go out of frame and come in another frame.
All right, we ready?
Ah, thank you, Wesley.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. And then you can pass Wesley a prop. Same thing, or the cup, something if you want.
Here, my dear boy, have a drink.
Thank you. Mm.
Wonderful. I love it's so delightful to watch, isn't it? It's really, it looks really cool because it, again, we know it's not real, but it just looks so real. And it's, even though the cups are two different colors, it doesn't matter. The next thing that I want to talk about is poison. So let's get our little vial of poison. Somebody in the Agatha Christie story, The Mysterious Affair at Styles and on North of Forbes, gets poisoned, but we don't know who yet. So there's a thing we do in the theater where when we talk about props, we talk about endowing the prop. And what that means, and this is exactly what you actors did with the imaginary cup, you endowed it with real properties. It was heavy, it was filled with liquid, you could drink from it for real. You swallowed, it was real. And it's the same with something like a vial of poison, which, what are some things about, let's just talk a little openly here about what are some things about handling a vial of poison that we might think about, or we might do?
You got to be very careful with it so you don't drop it and get it on yourself because it could be deadly.
Yes, it
Or
could
it
be
is
deadly. Yeah, so we have to handle it very, very, very carefully. What else? What might we do once we open it? Let's all open our vial of poison right now. So pick it up, take a look at it, open it up. What's the next thing we might do? Ah, smell it. Yeah, right.
Well,
Hmm. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely deadly. That's definitely deadly. Let me see how each of you actors open your vial of poison, and all of our friends at home will watch too. Or you guys can do it with us. Do it with us.
do you want to go first, West?
Sure.
Wes?
Yeah, Wes, you go, and then Loki.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Nice. Two, very good. Excellent. Two very different takes on the poison. Loki's had no smell at all, which is kind of mysterious. It had no odorless, tasteless, the deadliest type of poison, right? Wesley's was a little more, ooh, really, really vile, really stinky. And he also was paranoid that there might be somebody watching. All right, here's what we're gonna do next, guys. If we step up from our chair, I want to give us all a chance to die on stage drinking our poison. So, so, here's the scenario you're each going to do now. You're going to, Well, actually, I think you can you have a choice in this next little exercise we're going to do. You're going to enter the space. You're either going to poison somebody else or poison yourself. If you poison yourself, I think it might be fun to poison yourself. Open the poison, drink the poison, have some kind of reaction to the poison, and then die falling out of frame. Sound good? All right.
Got it.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Excellent. Death by poison. A very
How
right.
Romeo and Juliet of you.
It's very Romeo and Juliet of us today. That's right. So Wesley, or Loki, are you going first? Loki's
I don't know. Do you want me to go first?
yeah, Loki, you go first, and then Wesley, you go.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Oh, he's not getting up. Okay, good. There he is. Bravo, bravo. Wesley, your turn.
All right. I'm gonna try to get up as much as I can. Oh.
Nice. So
with the accidental poison.
Yes, the
That was good.
accidental death by poisoning. That didn't go quite the way he wanted it to go. Very, very good, you guys. Very good. Okay, so the last thing that we are going to do today, we talked about pretend props. We talked about props we make out of the air. We talked about real props. We talked about endowing dangerous props, because of what's in it. We have to be very careful with how we handle it. And sometimes sometimes on stage, there are props used that are more in the abstract. So they're not literal. And in this case today, we're going to use our scarves as blood in our gory death scene. So for this one, and this is a very old practice that probably goes back to Greek theater, but definitely used in the 17th century as a way to show blood on stage. And the way that they would do it was they would use a red scarf, and they would spill their blood by using the red scarf. And so the way that this works is we have to rig the scarf. And I have found that the best way is to kind of, start with the bottom and kind of accordion it like into your hand a little bit like this, so that the scarf can be more or less concealed. So the actor, for the death scene would enter in with this, in a pocket or concealed in their jacket or under their dress or whatever. And when they die, the blood gets spilled. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just practice spilling the blood. And this is basically just, it's bunched up and you're just going to let it unravel out of your hand and then sell it by the physical embodiment of your death. Let's all do it together. And go. Fantastic. All right. So now we're going to add a little something. We're going to add the air dagger. So we're going to do a little Juliet action here. And we're going to stab ourselves. We're going to do a little Harry carry, I guess you could say. So rig up your scarf. Yeah, and as long as you can basically conceal it. And again, this is one of those things that can be very effective on stage, but we're not trying to fool the audience into thinking it's anything but a scarf, but they believe it as blood because of how the actor sells it. So what I'm going to let you guys do, I'll watch. I really want to do it. I really want to die with all the blood. Oh, but I'm going to let you guys
And
do
die
it.
with all the blood.
But, is you're going to do that, just stab yourself in the heart and then bleed and die. So let's have Wesley go first and then Loki.
All right.
Bravo, bravo. Take a bow. Take a bow. Lovely. Loki, you've got your scarf rigged up.
Yep. Okay.
Nice. Bravo.
I don't have the best scarf for this.
I am so impressed with what you guys did with these, because I know we've got a few different scarves working here, but Wesley's was kind of a slow gurgling out of the blood, and Loki's was this kind of like geyser spurt of blood that came out. Very creative, you guys. We have a few minutes left, so let's talk a little bit about what are some of the takeaways that we have about props, and I know we don't have that much room, but dying on stage.
So actually, I think, funnily enough, in the show Wes and I are currently we're doing a production of Hamlet. And I'm playing Polonius, so I die. So this has actually been very helpful to work on my death scene. But the props, I have the scene where I give Laertes a thing, but we don't really have anything yet. So I think this is going to help me a lot with giving meaning to an object that's not even actually there. And this, because I'm giving him something important that I care about and want him to have. And this experience is going to help me in the future to actually have meaning behind it.
Awesome. I mean, that's really wonderful, Loki. Yeah, it's just that props are inanimate objects, and we have to take them and make them mean something. What about you, Wesley?
Yeah, so when I was a freshman, our school did a production of Barnum, the circus musical, and I
Yes.
played the role of the white-faced clown, and he's a mute clown, and he resembles death. And what we decided to do for this production was that I'd be like a mime. So I was a mime throughout the whole performance, and I had to do a lot of these like kind of performances without props. And it's kind of reminding me of like my training with miming and everything. And I think this will really help me with college going on next year. I plan on going into performing arts, so
that's excellent.
This will definitely help me out. I'm very thankful for it.
Well, thank you for that feedback, you guys, and thank you so much for having me join you today. And thank you to everyone out there, all of you other friends out there that watched and participated with us today. And it was really my pleasure meeting you both and working with you today with some props. So
thank you so much for this opportunity. It was outstanding.
Thank you so much.
Ditto on what he said. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. And we're getting a thank you from some friends out there in the chat. So thank you, you guys. And
great. Thank you so much, Amy, Wesley, Loki. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Seth.
Bye.